Welcome back, everyone. I'm Carrington-Russell, Australian award-winning author of kick-butt heroines in dark fantasy romantic worlds. And I have a very awesome guest for you today. We are talking male romance and urban fantasy. We are talking to the one and only Jennifer Cody today. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you on. And you left me on a little bit of a cliffhanger before. You were drinking coffee and you've learned an interesting fact. And I want to hear it.
Okay, so I have a friend. Her name is Sarah. She is in Australia, somewhere close to Sydney. And she was like, hey, can you tell me what creamer is? And I was like, do you not have creamer in Australia? And she's like, nope. I was like, well, creamer is, and I had to look at the ingredients. It's mostly vegetable oil, but it creams your coffee. And like, I don't know, my coffee is this color, but it doesn't have milk in it. Same. Yeah. It doesn't have milk in it. It has vanilla creamer in it, and it's flavored vanilla, and it's mostly vegetable oil. And you know what? I really like it.
So I've been to the States a couple of times, and I was like, what is creamer? And everywhere I went, whoever I stayed with had it. And so I was like, oh, do you have milk? Because I put milk in my coffee. And they're like, no, but we have creamer. And I was like, what is that? So, and you have so many different flavors. I did become a little bit obsessed with it, but it's basically just like a creamy sweetener, isn't it, for your coffee?
Yeah. Basically.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was vegetable oil though. That's really bizarre.
It is kind of weird. I didn't know it was vegetable oil until Sarah was like, hey, what is that? Like, I don't know. It's just something we put in our coffee.
Isn't that funny? Because yeah, it's not a thing in Australia. Like we use milk and sugar. Oh my goodness. So I want to know everything and anything about you because you're amazing and you've accomplished so many things in your writing career. So I would love to go to the start and find out why you started writing and how you found publishing.
I've had 3 starts to my writing career. Okay. When I was 18, okay, I had written a book with my friend, and there was a small press publisher that she got connected to through somebody else. And we ended up publishing an ebook in 2001. Okay. Very young. And I think we sold like 3 copies. And It is not available anymore. So like, don't go looking for it. But that was like my first start. And I stopped. Like, I was just like, this is so hard and not worth it. Because I sold like 3 copies. How am I? And nobody told me how to do this. Okay. So then fast forward, like, I don't know. It was like 7 or 8 years. And I had a kid, and I was going through a divorce, and I had just discovered romance. I had never read romance before. And I just discovered romance, and I was reading Sherilyn Kenyon. And I was like, this is amazing. But if she can do it, so can I. Okay. So I was like, I'm going to write a book. And I did. I wrote 4 books for that MF pen name, but it was so hard. MF is a really, really tough genre to sell anything in. So I had a hiatus. I had 2 more kids. I got married, and then I was like, you know what? Let's try this again. Only this time I had discovered MM romance, and MM was a much smaller competition pool, and I liked it better.
Yeah.
Sorry. I just really like MM. I like reading it. I love writing it. So I wrote an MM book, and I didn't publish it. Instead, I wrote another one, and I also didn't publish that one. And then I wrote a 3rd one and a 4th one and a 5th one. And then I was like, okay, I'm ready to start publishing. And I published my 3rd one first. And that was Bishop Tonight 1. And when I had done a lot of things, I knew that I needed help. I'm not a marketer. So I asked some other readers if they would help me. And I built a team. And when I press publish on that first book, I had a team of 12 people with me, publishing with me. And it was hard. It was so hard, but it was good. I sold more books that month than I had for any of my other books, period. So that's kind of how I got started. Just that one book turned into another and another, and then I published after I found my people.
Obviously, the first one with your friend was through a small press. When you then wrote the MF, Sherilyn Kenyon, by the way, is phenomenal. Love her. When you first published an MF, was that independently published? Was that self-published?
Oh, yeah. My mom told me about Amazon publishing, and this was like, let me think, probably 2011, 2012, something like that. Amazon publishing, and I was like, okay. So I did it. And my first cover was an Amazon creative cover thing. I had no idea about anything. It was awful. And then I went to Fiverr and I got another cover. And then this cover artist who had not yet become a name in the industry was like, hey, let me make you a better cover, because she liked my book. And she did. And I bartered with her for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And she now has quite a name in the cover artist industry.
Who are we allowed to ask who it is? Or is it top secret?
I mean, I'm not ashamed. Her name is Julie Nichols, and she does Mariski publish or cover art. You can find her on Facebook. She does urban fantasy art now. That's what she does. She did romance, but now she does urban fantasy. She's so good at it.
I think I recognize the name. I'm going to have to Google her because I probably recognize a lot of her covers. It's so interesting, though, because I imagine you would have found a huge difference. Obviously, at each point, you weren't too sure what you were initially doing, as a lot of us do, stumbling into it. But there was, I think, a big difference between when you go from 2011 and when you published your first MM novel. What year was that, Your Bishops?
December 2020.
2020. So from 2011 to 2020, there was a lot more access in 2020 as to people offering advice and people who can help you and, you know, forums. Whereas 2011, it was all still very new. A lot of people had no idea what they were doing because Amazon really only just started self-publishing. So I found that it was a more nurturing time maybe in 2022 for you to start again. And I find it really interesting that you did male, female, and then you went to male, male. So I guess that brings me the question as to what you feel like the difference is and the dynamics and themes and why you lean more towards writing male, male.
Okay, this is a big question. So, and it's different for every person. So we're just going to do me personally.
Yeah.
And it might get a little crass because that's how I explain it. First of all, I like dicks. I really like dicks. I am not heterosexual. I am actually more omni, but I really like dicks. And so 2 dicks is better than 1. That was the draw to MM for me. Like my first MM novel, I was like, there's 2 dicks. Oh my God, that's amazing. I love this. Okay. So that's just me. Okay. That's not for everybody. The second thing is MF romance is full of stumbling blocks for misogyny. And it is so hard to just navigate that minefield. Especially, I am almost 40 years old. I didn't have sensitivity training. There are still things that I am discovering now that I am saying, or ideas that I have that are oppressive to women in general. And it's not something that you think about when you've just been raised that way. Yeah. Okay. So just a huge discovery for me as a woman. I'm not good at navigating misogyny as a minefield, even though it makes me so angry all the time. Like, I didn't know that the medical community was, really not good with women's health. I didn't realize that until it was pointed out to me about 2 years ago. And now I'm like, you mean it's not just because I have ovaries?
Literally.
Like, that's just not something that I grew up knowing. And I'm really glad that I can teach my daughter that that she can advocate for herself and that she doesn't have to just deal with what people say, what doctors say, just because she's a woman. But so the MF community, just minefield of things that you have to avoid and things that are not avoided at all with some of those tropes. Women have fantasies. Fantasies are wonderful. The romance fantasies, I mean, I was so into them, but now I'm like a little bit angry. So I can't read that. Yeah. It's not because I don't like MF. It's just because it's hard to find things that don't trip my anger.
Yeah.
So that was like first and foremost, I love dicks. Second, I don't have to deal with a lot of misogyny because none of the main characters are women. There are side characters that are women, and there are some problems with the MF or the MM, subgenre and how they treat women. And I try not to do that, but I'm never going to please everybody. Like, if I have a woman who's a bad guy, I'm misogynistic because my woman's a bad guy. If I have a woman who is a mother and very motherly, I'm misogynistic because not all women are motherly. It's just, there's always something to trip you, but it happens a lot less.
Yeah. And it's so true. It's like one of those things that we have to consider. And initially when we start writing, it's exciting. We're doing this new project. We're expressing ourselves creatively. And then when we take this as a business and a career, there's so many things that you have to take into account, such as you're saying, the sensitivity and certain topics, certain triggers. And it can become a bit of a landmine, basically, because you want to step on as less toes as possible in what you're expressing, but at the same time it's difficult because you have really strong independent characters as well, and this is who they are. So it's really difficult to juggle that, and you're at some point always going to offend somebody, unfortunately. But I also think this is really interesting too, and it's as an example, as you said, you basically started up 3 times, and it was the 3rd time that you found your lane, so to speak, what actually brings you joy and what felt most natural for your kind of writing. And I absolutely love that, because a lot of us often have to trial different forms and different genres and go, this is what feels right for me, this is what brings me joy. And it's interesting that you found that so many years down the track. And the fact too that you've had so much success in 2 years as well is one thing to know, because you have done really, really well for yourself, but you kind of started off very clever about it as well. You probably didn't realize what you were doing at the time, but having 5 books ready to go straight from the get-go to publish them, that was very, very clever. Do you think that obviously having a team to help support you and publish, but then also having that, do you think a lot of that helped you kind of boom straight away, your pen name?
I don't think I boomed straight away. Like maybe other people think I did, because I haven't had any months where I didn't have books sold or anything like that. So, but considering the possibility, like, I had a book boom in February. Okay. And considering how many people read that book versus how many people read my books the whole previous year, I made more money in February than I did the whole previous year. Okay. So like, I don't think I boomed right away, but I found a lot more success with my first books than I did with any of my previous ones. I think that having a huge team behind me from the get-go, like, I was just recruiting people, and I don't have that many people now. Some of them have dropped off, personal issues, like, none of it was because we didn't get along. Okay. But some of them have dropped off, and now my team is like 6 people now. Yeah. Okay. So, but I did start off with a big team, and I think that helped a whole lot getting my book out there. And also realizing that I am just not good at marketing. That's not my strength. I recruited people that are good at marketing. My PA has a degree in business. She does her thing. She likes doing her thing. And I just tell her to do her thing. And if she needs money, just to tell me.
I think that's such a powerful message too, because I think a lot of authors struggle for the longest of times on trying to be good at all of the things. And you don't have to be. Everyone, as you said, everyone has their strengths, everyone has their weaknesses. And I think it's a powerful tool when you're self-aware as to what you are good at and what you're actually passionate about, what you enjoy. I don't believe in, dragging your mud through something you really don't like. If you can delegate that elsewhere, and yes, it's usually an exchange of money, but they're good at that. And you're probably going to get it done a lot quicker doing that. So it's quite interesting that you knew straight away what you were good at. And you decided, yes, I'm going to delegate this out, because I think that's a big hurdle for a lot of authors initially.
Oh, huge. I've been doing this for, this particular pen name for, about a year and 5 months. Okay. I had somebody the other day who I am writing with right now say, I am so amazed at your online energy. And I was like, Jennifer Cody is a brand. Mm-hmm. Jennifer Cody has employees. I do the writing. I do the editing. I do my Facebook group. But I don't do much else.
Yeah. Do you do your own editing?
No.
Oh, I was like, this is controversial.
No. I mean, I will go through the edits and I'll do the revision and things like that. But I have an alpha reader. She is in my document. Well, I have 2 alpha readers. They are both in my document while I am writing it. They get to the end of the chapter and they make notes. That's what they do. And then I have beta readers that after I finish the first draft and go through the alpha notes, then my beta readers read and they leave their notes. And then I do a major revision. And then I send it to my proofreader. And my proofreader is amazing. She is also a very talented developmental editor. And she will give me notes. And then I will go through them and I will make changes. And when I'm done with that, then she looks at my changes and then I publish.
Are you a plotter or a pantser? What's your writing process?
Oh,
because that's quite...
Oh gosh, this is going to surprise most of my readers that don't already know this about me. If you're in my group, you know this about me. I am a pantser.
No.
My books are character driven. I do not have plots. I do not have plot lines. I do not have outlines, nothing like that. And this is going to come as a surprise because my books are complex when it comes to plot lines. Bishop to Knight 1 and Knight to Castle 2 and Queen to King 3 are all very intertwined. They share scenes between them. They share a plot line. It is very complex. It is very involved. And I'm a pantser. I wrote those 3 books at the same time in chronological order by chapter because I don't have a plot. I have pants and they go away.
Wow, that's interesting. What does your day-to-day look like then? What does your writing schedule look like?
So I'm a stay-at-home mother. I have a kindergartner, I have a 5th grader, and I have a 7th grader who does school from home. Okay. I write when I can.
Yeah, that's a lot.
But most of the time, I will have a couple hours of time to work. And that is not necessarily just writing, but time to work between 8 and 11 in the morning. And then I'll probably work. And then after supper, I'll start working again. And that'll be like 7 and I'll work till midnight.
One book that really grabbed my eye was The Trouble with Trying to Date a Murderer. That title alone definitely intrigued me. And I'm assuming, is this the one that you said boomed for you in February? What, first of all, what is it about for those who haven't read it? But what gave you the inspiration for that one?
It's fic.
It's
of John Wick.
Oh,
it's
really?
a fanfic of John Wick. Mm-hmm. In December, I was not publishing anything in December and I didn't have anything particularly pressing to do. So I spent a weekend watching the John Wick trilogy. And then I was like, this, but gay. And also from the perspective of somebody not in the know. And that's how trouble happened. Okay, this is very important to me to just let you know. I did not expect trouble to blow up. Yeah. Like, one of the questions you sent me was, what's been surprising? Nothing about publishing has really surprised me, except trouble blowing up. It is a fanfic. I published it for fun. I wrote it for fun. I published it on my birthday as a gift, birthday present to myself. And I figured that my readers would probably enjoy reading it, but it wouldn't, do as well as any of my other books. I was very, very wrong about that. I happen to have written something that apparently my community of readers just really wanted to read. They really wanted that. They wanted the fun. They wanted the humor. They wanted the snark. And my main character, my narrating main character, his name is Romley. He is mute. He does not have vocal cords. Okay, he's not deaf. Don't put him in the deaf community, because that is a whole culture that I am not, like, I don't know enough about it to write about it. Okay, but he is mute. And he is fun, and he is snarky, and he's just a ball of sunshine. And he falls into insta-love with a murderer who comes into the diner he's been working at for all of 5 minutes and kills everybody in it. And my main character is like, he just wanted breakfast, and now everybody's trying to kill him. But he's way better at it than they are. And he just falls into insta-love with this competent guy who's not really all that handsome, but, he's really good at what he does. It's humorous, it's fun, it's paranormal, but it is a John McFanfic.
It's interesting because you've already had I think it's up to over 900 reviews now on Amazon, which is a huge feat. And was it like an immediate sort of spark, like everyone just jumped on it straight away when you published that?
So I published it. My PA had gone into some of the MM book rec groups and asked if anybody wanted to ARC read. And we had like 50, a little less than 50 ARC readers. And those ARC readers got their copies. And on release day, they unleashed a storm in all the book rec groups. I didn't know that was going to happen. I had no idea. Like, I didn't get any updates because I don't read my reviews. I don't do that. The negative reviews are stressful. They're useful, but they're stressful and not something I need to put into my brain, right? But the positive reviews, also stressful because of expectation and anxiety. Like, am I going to do good the next time too? So I just don't read the reviews. I am aware of that the book has a 4.7 rating, average rating right now. But like, I didn't realize until it happened that my ARC readers were going to go bananas recommending this book. It was kind of cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I had no idea it was going to happen. It was a really good birthday gift, but yeah, it took like 3 days and it started ranking, and then my royalties shot through the roof and my pages read, and like, it was incredible to watch happen. I also, this is personal. I don't mind sharing. I went into shock, because I had not seen the numbers that Trouble brought. And Trouble didn't just bring it for itself. It brought it for all of my books. And I went into author shock, where I had to just get away from everything. Like, I shut down my computer. I shut down my phone. I didn't talk to anybody. I was just like, nope, I'm done. I can't handle this anymore. It is too much. I got overwhelmed. And I think that's a natural reaction because, I hadn't I hadn't seen the numbers that I was seeing. I hadn't seen that kind of success. And then I was. And at this point now, I've gotten used to it. Like it's not. I had a conversation with one of my friends. Her name is Sean Montgomery. She also publishes She's much more successful than I am. And she was like, you just need to tell yourself you deserve to succeed. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have never thought of that before, because I always wanted to succeed. I always wanted to see these things happen. But when it did happen, I was shocked. I was just like, I can't handle this. And she was just like, you need to remember, not only do you want it, but you also deserve it. And that, just saying it like that, just made it click. And I was just like, okay, I'm okay now.
Thank you for sharing that too, because I think it is a discussion that isn't had enough, because we for so long are trying and aiming and putting our all into this, and often we're overwhelmed and we're tired and we're stressed because we do want to be successful in what we're doing, and we do want to see those figures, but we don't know what it's actually like when it's palpable, when it's there. And so there's no way to prepare yourself when you do have especially a big spike like that. I imagine it would be very overwhelming. And this story is not foreign. Like, I have heard this before, because people don't know how to react to it. And it is that conversation or lead up to, every day reminding yourself, I am worthy of this. This is what I'm working for. And, being grateful for when it happens, but knowing that you are worthy for it. So I'm so glad that you had that friend that could kind of talk you off the cliff a little and remind you that you're amazing and you deserve that.
I didn't know. I didn't realize, but now I'm like, okay, I need to keep this attitude. Like, yes, this is something I've worked for. And when it happens, it is mine. I worked for it. Although this was an accident.
But I think too, that maybe it's very overwhelming as well, because it immediately puts a new element of pressure, because you've immediately been elevated to a new tier. So you feel kind of crushed by that pressure of expectation. And as you said, is my next book going to be as pleasing? Are readers still going to stick around? Like, is this a fluke? I imagine imposter syndrome would have been a very surreal thing at that time.
Oh yeah. Imposter syndrome is so, like, it is right here all the time. And I'm just like, okay, I'm okay. I'm okay. Trying to get away from this thing right there. So hard.
I want to talk a little bit about writing LGBTQ, because as we were talking about before, going from MF to male, there are some things that you have to tiptoe around or things like that. So what advice do you have for authors who are wanting to write LGBTQ? And do you have a preference of just doing romance or it in urban fantasy?
Oh, I like paranormal, just whatever. Like, I like paranormal cozy mysteries, right? And I like urban fantasy. It's my heart. Urban fantasy. Yes. Highly. I'm just gonna say this. Richard Amos. Good urban fantasy. It's It's great. Okay. Dark though. Urban fantasy is dark. So just be aware of that. So for people who want to get into the LGBTQ side of publishing, okay, if you are already doing MF, then there's a few things you need to understand. Like, the readers of anything, 90% of them will not read MF. They are sometimes violently against it. Okay. They are like, it is a whole thing for the community of readers. They are just like, no MF, thanks. No. The other thing is, you should read a whole bunch of before you write it, because the tropes, while they are recognizable, age gap, possessive, alpha hole. The romance tropes are recognizable. They are very different. How they play out is different because you have two male characters or two female characters or two non-binary characters or one, or, there are asexual characters, and you're having a romance, and then you have a character who is not at all interested in the intimate side of it or the physically intimate side of it, right? You just need to read a whole bunch in this genre and also realize that your audience is not the same. Okay. For MF, it is the same in that it is 90% women, but you have 10% that are not women, that are not straight women, that are in fact gay men, and they are loud and they are proud, and they will tell you when you get it wrong, and they will complain loudly, and it's kind of wonderful, actually. And like every genre, and I've even though I started with romance late in life, I've only been reading it since my 20s. Okay. There's been evolution in it, in the MF side, where, you didn't worry about having a conversation about safe sex before you have sex in the book. And then you move to condoms all the time. And, in the MM, it's even more so. Like, there is always a conversation about sexual history, sexual health. There's a conversation about condoms. There's a conversation about PrEP, because for the 10% that are gay men reading this, they want any baby gay to come into this book and know that they need to talk about these things because their sexual health is important. And they will go on tirades if you do not do this right. And recently, one of my favorite authors didn't do it right. And I got a lot of messages complaining to me about this other author's book. And I'm like, I didn't have anything to do with that.
It's so nice to hear this, because I haven't read a lot of MM, if I'm being entirely honest, and I do want to, and I do need to. But I love so much that there's so much focus on realism in it at the same time, because these are discussions that have to be had. And that I find that in a lot of romance books, it's just straight into it. Like, it's very unrealistic in that. And I do query sometimes, if a younger audience is reading this, if a younger woman or if a younger man or whoever it may be is reading this, whether that's their expectation that just because you find somebody sexually attractive that you jump into bed with them, no questions asked. So I love that there is such focus about this discussion, and it's such a point in the book. I love that.
It is like major. And I like that I write paranormal romance, and my next book is urban fantasy. But I like that with paranormal romance, I have a lot of wiggle room with this, because already we're in fantasy. So I can decide that my characters can't get STDs.
Yeah.
And guess what? We don't have to have condoms. But actually, even though I have characters that can't get human, infections, they still choose to wear condoms. They still choose to have condoms because they don't want to stand out, or they don't want to exchange the fluids. They don't want the mess. They have a variety of reasons, but sometimes, even though infection is not the concern, they still choose condoms. And I like that. I have one character whose spunk is a little, it can irritate the mucous membranes of other species. So he wears condoms because he doesn't want to cause his partners any pain.
Oh, how considerate.
I know, right? He was just like, you know, his spunk's a little Bernie.
Oh my god.
He's a rock monster, and he comes from places that are volcanic. So yeah, his spunk's a little Bernie.
Okay. Talking about urban fantasy, then you actually have a release coming out in a couple of days called Sledge and Claw. When this releases, it'll only be I think 2 or 3 days until it releases. So what, I know I teed it up. Tell me a little bit about Sledge and Claw. What is it about? What gave you the inspiration again?
Okay, so you know how I was talking about the first book I wrote, and then the second. This is the second book I wrote. This is the second book I wrote, and when I wrote it, it was not only it was MMF. I changed it. It has gone through 3 revisions to become the wonder that it is now. It is a wonder. But Lex, his name is Lex. Lex is the main character of Sledge and Claw. And this is urban fantasy. All of my other books have been romance. This is urban fantasy. It does have a romantic subplot, but it is a subplot. Okay. Lex works for the Interdimensional Immigration Agency, and there are 13 worlds, and Earth is the connecting hub. The other worlds can't go to each other. They can only come to Earth. And then, so Earth is the connecting hub, and then they have these other worlds. And this is a hidden magic world, but it is also a little sci-fi because they're aliens. I call them aliens. They might have magic, but they are aliens. They are from other worlds. So a little sci-fi, very much an urban fantasy. Urban fantasies are a little bit dark. Lex is kind of an asshole. I like him a lot. He was a lot more asshole-y before the revisions. But he's like 50 years old, and he's not, he didn't go through sensitivity training either. He just treats everybody the way they deserve, basically. And Lex is a field agent for IDEA. That's what I call it, IDEA. He's a field agent for IDEA. He does investigations. He makes sure, but not only does he investigate things, he also is the executioner if there needs to be one. Okay. So it's a government agency, but it's like MIB, it's like the Men in Black. It's a government agency, but the government doesn't really know about it. Right. So Lex stumbles upon an illegal portal that goes from the Earth to another realm. In this case, it was Fairy. The planet name is Fairy, right? Okay. And so he stumbles upon an illegal portal, and then that just snowballs because that's what happens in urban fantasy. I will say that if you're triggered by slave trafficking, this book is not for you. But that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say on that. There are consent issues in this book, and I don't address them because Lex is 50 years old and he's already dealt with that. So that's also on my trigger warning. There are consent issues. I'm not really going to go through that. If you want to go through consent issues on any of my other books, feel free. I am very, very into, we need to establish consent. Speaking of, that's another thing in romance. Consent is always established from start one to the next step, and any step in between. Every character knows that they can stop anything at any time, and that is discussed. So there's consent issues in this book, but it's Lex. He's already dealt with this. He's fine. He's kind of an asshole. He gets a new trainee, and this is where I kind of diverge from regular urban fantasy. In regular urban fantasy, you have typically a girl who is not trained with her power, if she has it, or she is powerless. And as each book progresses, she gets training, she becomes more powerful, she becomes more badass, and then by the end, she is this fully realized heroine, and she defeats the bad guy. And there's always these like there's always a cliffhanger or two in the series. There's step backs, like she will get beaten by the bad guy and have to pick herself back up. There are tropes, you know, usually she's related to the bad guy in some way, a long lost dead relative or, you know, something. So there are tropes, and this is where I've diverged from them. Lex is already as powerful as he's going to get. He will have character development, but he has a new trainee. And throughout my series, you're going to see his new trainee, who is a girl, become more powerful. She starts off with 0 power, and by the end of the series, she will be the kick-ass heroine, because that's what he is training her to be. So this urban fantasy is going to hit all the tropes, but the character that the tropes are hitting is going to not be the main character.
I love that.
And I'm really excited about this.
That's awesome. What is the intended amount of books for this series?
I don't know. I'm a pantser. Like I started it out and I thought I'll probably do like 3, maybe. I'm a pantser. It depends on how many times Lex decides he needs to start screaming at me. Mm-hmm. And like right now I have the first book and I have most of the second book written, or part of the second book written, not most of it, part of the second book written. And then I have, I'm really excited about this. The Sledge and Claw has a bonus story at the end of it that introduces the spin-off series, which is a character whose name is both Ranger and Hunter. He has 2 names because he has 2 bodies, 1 mind and 2 bodies. And I'm very excited about that one. Like I wrote Lex and then I was like, but I really want to write that next one to be this other character. So I'm actually more excited about my April release than I am about my March release. And I'm excited about Sledge and Claw, but I'm really, really excited about Inferno coming out.
Your readers are going to be loving this so much right now.
I hope so.
Well, then, speaking of readers, I would love to know what your most memorable reader interaction moment has been.
Oh, that's such a hard question. Okay. First of all, reader, like in my writing career, I have always like viewed it through the lens of a video game, sort of. Okay. Where every like step in the ride, every time I step up, I've leveled up. Okay. So I level up whenever I, sell more books than I have ever sold before. I level up whenever I get my first fan mail. I level up, that kind of thing. Right. So I have leveled up a lot since I started publishing under this pen name, like a lot. And not any of them really stand out. I remember them all, but none of them are just like, that was amazing. However, I have a good answer for your question. Even though I don't have something that stands out particularly, what I do have is when I pressed that publish button, I had 2 friends. 2. I had my husband, who I don't consider a friend. He's my spouse. But I had 2 friends, my future wife and my PA. And that was it. And then I published my book. And now I have in a close inner circle, my future wife, my PA, and then several readers that were tenacious enough to make me their friends. Okay. Like I'm bad at making friends. I'm just bad at it. But these people were just tenacious and they were like, no, you're going to talk to me every day. And now I have friends. I have an inner circle of people. But more than that, I actually have another circle of people that are friends too. Not as close, but they're also friends. And I talk to them like at least once every few weeks. I have never really been lonely in my life because I'm an introvert and I'm self-contained. So I've never really been lonely, but now I'm not alone. And it's kind of amazing.
It's so interesting. The things that we get that we don't expect to experience or have when we go into this industry, and having that inner circle, I think, is one thing that surprises a lot of people when you find your tribe and when you find the right group. And then you think a couple of years down the track, how could I possibly go a day without you? And you
Right?
can't even remember when the moment was that they became so important. And I love that you found that for yourself as well.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for them. And I'm glad that they didn't give up on me, even though I'm really bad at social media.
So this is my favorite question to ask. What is the big goal? What is the dream that you're chasing for your writing career?
I adore this question, by the way, because it gives me a chance to talk about something that's important to me. My husband is an amputee. He only has one leg, and his other leg is not usable for walking, so he can't have a prosthetic. He is in a wheelchair all the time, 24/7. That is, he has been this way since I married him. I married him after he lost his leg. Since we have been married, we have never lived in a house that he could get through all the doorways. Never. In fact, for most of our marriage, we have lived in houses that he couldn't get into the bathroom. My main goal for writing is to build him a house that is completely accessible to him. It doesn't have to be a big house. I just want one that he can get through all the doorways. He can't get through all the doorways in the house we're currently living in. Fortunately, he can get into the bathroom. Thank just whatever, the universe. I don't know. Just grateful he can get into the bathroom in this house. But he can't get through all the doorways. And that's my goal. My big goal is to build a house for my husband so he can get through all the doorways.
I love that. That is beautiful. And I think you'll get there soon too, because honestly, you, within those year and a half, as you said, that you've been publishing, you have had so much success, and it's only going to get further. So you might have been surprised when that book went boom for you, but I feel like it's all meant to happen. So
I hope so.
In the next 2 years, because I think you're only going to go up and up and up, and I can't wait to see photos of that beautiful house.
I'm excited. Like I can see it. Like it feels like it's just right there. I just have to save up the money and then it's there. And I really think that I could probably do it in 2-3 years, depending on, how long it takes to build a house. And we kind of have to decide where we want our forever home to be.
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm excited to watch your space to see where you decide building your big old mansion with the big pool and all the butlers.
Oh, do you know how much maintenance mansions take?
No, that's why you have the butlers and things. I think.
Oh yeah, but I'd have to have a whole staff of people.
What a shame.
Barely maintain the house.
So I do have a segment, speed dating with an author. So you and I are going to go on a very romantic date. I lit a candle, I created ambience, but basically what it is 5 rapid questions. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
What is the clumsiest moment you've ever had?
I'm not a clumsy person. I've never I've tripped up stairs and things like that, but that's normal. I'm not a clumsy person. I will tell you about the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to me.
I'll take it.
I was 16 and I was out to dinner with my best friend and her family, and I kind of had a little crush on her older brother. And we're out to dinner, and I'm kind of new. Like, she's my best friend. We've been hanging out at school, but this is kind of new for me. Like, her family, this is the first time I've ever been out with them. And I have my feet under the table, and I'm resting them on the table leg. And then her father turns to me and says, "Are you playing footsie with me under the table?" And I look down and I realize that I've been resting my feet on his feet this whole time. And I just, bright red, total flush.
What are the 3 words that would best describe you?
Oh God. Okay. Boring. I know. It doesn't seem that way, but I lead a relatively boring life. sarcastic. So Trouble has a lot of like my character's mute. He makes fun of himself a lot. My husband is an amputee. He makes fun of himself a lot, and I make fun of him too. And so a little bit sarcastic, and smiley.
Smiley. I was like, the suspense is killing me.
I'm going with smiley. No, but this is good because I'm not part of the deaf community now. But in college, I had a deaf friend, and she gave me a sign name, and it was.
Oh, that's so nice. What is your life motto?
Oh, I actually have this one. When I was 16 and in high school, I took German, and my German teacher gave me my life motto. She said, "If you are bored, it is because you are boring."
Oh, I like that.
And it changed my life. I'm like, if I'm bored, it's because I'm boring. Like, I'm not interested in enough things to keep myself occupied. Guess what? I tell other people I'm boring. Like, that's what I told you. I live a normal life, but I'm never bored. Like, I don't get bored. I always have something to do. And I'm interested in a lot of things. So that's my life motto.
What is the song that would best describe you?
Oh, jeez. Okay. I don't know, but I'm going to pick one. There's a band. The band is Skillet. Skillet has a song called Monster, and the refrain is, "I feel like a monster." That's what I'm going with. I feel like a monster.
And we write urban fantasy, we write about monsters, so that's fine.
That's right. The voices in my head are mostly monsters.
I can relate. What is a unique skill set or talent that you have that not a lot of people know about?
So I tell people this, but I think they forget, or it doesn't stay. I have learned 8 languages and forgotten that many, but I guess I haven't forgotten English since I'm using it now. Yeah. But like, I have learned sign language. I have learned German. I have learned French. I have learned Italian and Spanish and other languages that you wouldn't recognize. I've learned languages and forgotten them because if you don't use it, you lose it. But what that translates to as a skill set is that I can learn languages. I am really good at like parsing sentence structure and figuring out how things work together and how they're supposed to. I'm good at conjugating verbs and declining nouns and doing things like that. I'm really good at that. And so when I come across, like, if I have a character that has a language that I don't know, I can go and get online and buy some tutorials or do whatever it takes, and I can learn that language enough to write it in a book and not be inaccurate.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
I have had so much fun, Jennifer. Where do we find you? Where do we stalk you? And what's coming out? What do we need to know?
Okay. So you can always find me on Amazon. Just search Jennifer Cody. You're going to get another Jennifer Cody Epstein. I don't know who she is. I don't know what she does, but my name comes up. You can find me on Amazon. I also have a website, jennifercodyauthor.com. There are lots of freebies on there. And if you sign up for my newsletter, you get freebies. And that includes a short story that is in the Trouble universe. It's from Fox's point of view. And lots of the reviewers were like, I would like to know what Fox is thinking. So I wrote what Fox was thinking the entire time. You can also find me on Facebook. I mostly interact on my group, which is Jennifer Cody's Cocky Cuties. Say that 3 times fast. It's hard. But I also have a fan page. You can like me there, and I occasionally will post to that. And then you can always send me a friend request on my Facebook profile. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter. I'm there. Just not often. It's kind of toxic there. But I am, if there's a social media, I'm on it. I have a Snapchat that I discovered I had the other day. I don't remember ever setting it up.
PA probably set that up.
Right? Like, oh, I have a Snapchat. Huh. What is this?
I love that. Well, I'm so excited to see your release come out, and congratulations. As I said, we've only got a couple of days, so can't wait to see that flying around everywhere and going boom for you again. But thank you so much for coming on. I've had so much fun today.
I had fun too. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And watch your space. Who knows? Maybe we'll get you on next year.
Yeah, sure. Anytime. I have enjoyed this a lot.
Yes, that's what I like to hear. Well, I'm going to love you and leave you, and have a good day.
Okay, thank you.
So, bye, guys.